Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing another tech tour and we're here at North.Church in Oklahoma City. Let's go. All right guys, I'm here with Samson and he's going to tell you a little bit more about North.Church before we get rolling into this tech tour.
Yep. So our church, North.Church in Oklahoma City, started 20 years ago. In fact, this last year we celebrated 20 years. And so we have our location here. We also have a location in Guthrie. And then we have two other locations, one in Lexington Prison and the other one at Freedom House in Chakotah. And so we broadcast to those locations and yeah, so that's us.
That's cool. And this place used to be a fitness center, right?
Yes, our building that we're in right now used to be, I think they're like the Oklahoma Fitness Center is what it was called. It's kind of weird because when you drive up to this building, it feels massive. And then you walk in and you're like, oh, it's not that big.
Yeah, this seats like 600-ish people.
Right now, we probably have about 550 chairs out. When we have like bigger experiences like Christmas, things like that, we'll put out more chairs, but we try to keep it just so there's room to walk around, like probably cap it at 650.
Yeah.
That's a really tight room when we do that.
Awesome. Well, they have some really cool tech in this place. We're gonna walk through audio, video, lighting, and I know a lot of times this can feel like a little overwhelming, like I'll never be able to have those toys or whatever, but take it and you can apply different things that you'll learn from this tech tour in your setting. So I think we're gonna start with the video systems.
Okay, sounds great.
Let's go.
So we shoot on the Canon C200s for the most part. So we have 1, 2, 3 C200s that are on our floor. Camera 1 is this one right here that's normally on that platform. Camera 5 over there, Camera 2, which is our main kind of head to toe or even medium shot on the sermon. And then we have it with the Canon Cine 70-200 f4 lens. We do a tear deck on each of our roaming cameras, and so 1, 2, 6, and 3 have tear decks on it, and so they're all wireless.
Do you know which model tear deck those are? Like the Bolt?
Ooh, it's the Bolt 500 is what we have on these.
Are they pretty solid?
Oh.
Iffy sometimes?
They used to be solid. Okay. They're iffy. And when I say iffy, like we're running them for like 8 hours on a Sunday. And so I think at some point we need to upgrade our tear decks to like, they just came out with the 6G versions, which you're running into a lot of interference because you're on the same like bandwidth as Wi-Fi. And so, but these have worked well for us. Camera 5 is the one that gives us the most trouble. We constantly have we have a guy who contracts to do IT. He's coming in to help us try to make sure the channels stay as clear as possible for the tear decks. We love the C200s. They're not perfect, but they are very usable and user-friendly, and they're very affordable for a camera like this. And so I'm trying to think.
Are you shooting in log on them and then doing coloring separate, or is it all in-camera colored?
So kind of. So we are shooting in log inside the camera, and then we actually there's a preset for, I think, Cinema Log 3, I think is what the Canon is. And so we turn on that preset in camera, and we found that gives us the most dynamic range, but we're not married to that. And so it's just what we've been doing for the last year and a half. Almost 2 years.
Are those like gold mount batteries?
These are, so V-mount batteries. So we used to have like a different kind of battery system for it that would let us power both the tear deck and the camera. We ran it there, they discontinued it, and so we had to kind of upgrade to the actual V-mount plates. And so we run these Core Neo slimline batteries on these. They make it heavy for our operators, so they got to work out some. But it works well for us because it helps us make sure that these batteries last. It tells you on the back how long it lasts. So this battery will last about 3.5 hours. That's pretty accurate. So.
And how many live camera operators do you have each service?
Each service, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 operators.
Okay.
Yeah, and so 2 of them are down on the floor roaming. Camera 1 and 5 is that, and then camera 2 right here. There's one that's kind of sitting, and they're getting. That's the one sitting shot that we have, like on a tripod. And then we did have a slider, but it's now being sent out for repair, so you guys won't get to see it. But we used to have a slider on the drums. That was our drum cam, and so that would constantly kind of do this parallax effect on the drums, and that would always be a good shot. So it always gave our switcher an opportunity, if we need to cut away to a good shot to cut to. And then we have camera 6, which, let me bring that over real quick. Dallas, you want to take this one? So camera 6 is a Ronin. Now this kind of looks like a beast, but it's heavy. So we started out, it was just a Ronin with a A7 III, and we like to say we thought of that before the NFL did.
That's right.
But then we found like it doesn't quite match up. And so when we upgraded to the Blackmagic 6K, and we have a Tokina 11-16 lens on it.
So just all manual focus?
Yeah, and then you can, because it has the little focus ring right there, you can pull the focus right there. And then we run it with the same V-mount system. And then the guys who run it for some reason, they want an external monitor. It's like that kind of throws off their equilibrium sometimes, but it's just, they're kind of just doing this the whole time.
So are you using the wireless transmitter, the Raven Eye, with that for some reason, or is that just a
No,
Teradek?
It's just a Teradek. Okay. So we have a Teradek mounted where the Raven Eye system normally would go. And what I did like about the new Ronin was that you could mount the Teradek underneath it.
That's pretty cool.
So that's helpful for us. And a lot of cables that go off of that. I like this camera the best. I feel like it's the most dynamic that we have. And so this camera is always on the stage. It's always on a wide angle shot, and it's getting kind of our guitarist, piano, drummer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We like it. We like the dynamicness of it. 1 and 5, because they have the 70-200 lens, gets amazing shots too. But there's just something about being on stage.
So for your C200, that's your follow cam for Pastor, what lens are you using on it?
That one.
Sigma?
Yeah, that is the Sigma
the
150 to 600. Yes. Yeah.
And how do you like that? Because that's like a higher f-stop, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's like 5.6. I don't love it, but it does, so that lens is like $2,000 maybe at the top end. If the next step up that'll give you kind of the same results is like the Canon Cine, like 50 to 1,000 or whatever. It's like a $70,000 lens,
exactly.
And we weren't even going to do that.
It's a good compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend 2 than 70. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then we haven't talked about
the Dactyl Cam.
The Dactyl Cam.
Yeah. So we can go upstairs and talk about. I can give you kind of the spiel on it. It's a wired system, so we got a line ran all the way down from the back of the auditorium to all the way to the front of the back of the stage. And the Dactyl Cam is basically just a wire cam, and it stays on the thing. It's the sled is what you're purchasing. It has a Blackmagic Pocket 6K on it. So that's the camera that we now use on it. So it's a great system. We love it. I think that's the camera shot that really sets us apart. It's a very unique angle, and it's a very unique shot to get. I still like a jib, but we don't have room for it, and so we sold our jib. And so I think if you have to pick between one or the other and seats are your priority, then this is a great option to go with. It's not, comparatively to a jib, it's not that much more.
My name is Michael Tartabono. I'm the production director here at North.Church, and I mainly focus in the room with audio, visual, lighting, and then I also oversee all of our stage equipment, so maintenance, upkeep, all that good stuff.
Awesome, man. Okay, well, talk to us about this beast right here.
Yeah, so we just got this literally a week ago. So tonight will be my third service running this board. So this is the Digico 338, and so this is super cool. We're super excited for the expanded capacity that it gives us. But focusing more so on what we've been running for the past couple of years, probably about 6-7 years now, we were on the Digico SD8. That console was great. It is a great console, and it holds a little special place in my heart because it's kind of what I came up on. But that was great for us. We do everything right here on the front of house console. So in-ears for the vocalists. So monitoring comes off the front of house console, and also our broadcast comes out of the front of house console. So getting a console that can do all of that with all of the I/O and everything that's needed to facilitate all of that is it's a feat for sure. So on front of house, a couple of key things that we're using. We are using Super Rack, which is all of our waves processing. So right now I'm kind of in this season of like trying to thin out the waves stuff, especially with this, trying to do more on the desk. And but the waves is great. For vocals we do tuning, and all of the effects, and a lot of our limiting for broadcast. So a big thing we use the waves for is broadcast. I wouldn't say, especially for the worship mix, we're not recreating anything. If you turn all of it off, it's not gonna completely change the way it sounds. It's actually really subtle things that we've figured out and just kind of tweaked over time. So
for waves tune, are you changing the key
yes.
yourself?
Yeah, so kind of
automated.
No, it is not. So I program it into each snapshot. So kind of the way I do it is I have a snapshot down on my file where it's already pre-programmed for each key. So I'll start with, so if we're doing, tonight we're doing Glorious Day, so we're doing that in the key of D. So I'll start on my D preset. It's the same preset, but it's just different. The key is different. So I'll start there, insert a new one, and then keep doing that per key. And so just keeping up with that, making sure every once in a while it'll kind of freeze or it'll get stuck on a certain key. So just being aware of that, but for the most part, it's pretty stable. Most of the time it does exactly what you tell it to and doesn't do anything you don't. So.
All right, so for broadcast mix, I don't want you to get too in the weeds, but just basic, are you doing like a post fader aux mix kind of thing?
So the way the broadcast mix is fed is it's what Digico would call a group. So it's just being sent a couple different places. I have a worship master, which is where all my band inputs get sent to. I have a vocal group for broadcast. I have a drum group for broadcast. And then we have audience, media, and preaching host. And so just over time, that gives me, the things I find the most with broadcast is drum level. I brighten the drums up a little bit for broadcast, and then vocal is just maybe setting it a little lower or higher depending on how I'm mixing it in the room, just to have that control. But I'm trying to challenge myself with getting it all on one fader here pretty soon. So we'll see if we can make that happen or not. But that's been a great setup for us, and each week just making like dB and a half moves, nothing crazy.
Speaking of in the room, so what's your front of house system that you're using in here?
Yeah, so we have this room was designed by Skylark. Whenever we first shifted the room, so the room used to actually be facing this way, and so when we flipped the room, we put a whole new system in, and so the system is the L Acoustics ARX 2 rig, and so The tops are the arcs too, and for the subs, it's 4 of the SB28s, and then we have.
Are those all flown?
Those are underneath the stage. So the stage has about the front of the stage is actually hollow, about 4 feet, and so the subs are underneath in that little cavity before it turns to sand for the rest of the way back.
Sand. Nice.
Sand.
Just to dampen.
Yep.
Are you a fan of the ground subs, or do you wish you had some flown subs?
I love the way it feels. Yeah, but I think if you deploy it right, flown subs can be really cool too. But it's nice to feel it on the floor. Yeah, make your pants shake a little bit.
Right.
So and then for the front fills, which are also underneath that cavity in the stage, it's the L Acoustics AXTI, and we have I think it's 4 of them across the front. So we have 4 subs, 4 front fills, and then the 2 tops, which is 3 on each side. So, and those are powered by the L Acoustic. We had 3 LA4s. One of our LA4s was sent in for repair. So right now it's 2 LA4s and 2 LA8s powering the system.
What's a sweet setup, man. Let's go up on stage and you can talk to me about these amazing LED walls, your instruments, miking, stuff like that. Let's
do it. So the middle wall, all 3 of our walls are foreign walls. That's just how I'll describe them. We moved to these about 2 years ago, right a little before 2020. We kind of done it in batches. So the first time we did it, the wall was about half the size, and then we added on the top half, and we also added the side screens. We used to run projectors, and then we just felt like going to LED was the next move for us. So the center screen is fed through Resolume with the lighting rig, and so he controls that, and so he's the one feeding that, and we're picking content. A lot of our content for message hosting is custom made by our media director, our art director, Kasia, and so that's the center wall.
How big is this wall right now?
This wall, I don't know the exact dimensions. It's roughly around 32 by 16 and a half.
What resolution are you sending it?
It's a very close 16 by 9 image. It's not exact, but it's very, very close. Awesome. And so all of the walls are powered by a Novastar H2. Not powered. It's fed. It's processed through a Novastar H2. So there's a line running to the back wall, and there's a separate line running to the side screens, which the side screens are pretty much just our program feed for the most part, which is nice for them to just have control of it. We thought about running them through Resolume and stuff, but it just works well for us to run it straight from the output of the switcher. So.
Now, what did you say the pixel pitch of this one is?
The pixel pitch of the middle one is, I think it's about 3. It's in the low 3s, 3.1. It's somewhere around there. The sides
these look like TVs.
The sides are tighter. The sides are 2.9, maybe even a little bit tighter than that. And so the sides look really good. The back looks really good. It's obviously not as quick. So we had to do a little bit of work to get the side screens to be quick enough for us with latency. So the back wall has the Novastar A7s in the processing chips, and then we switched out the side walls. We put A8s in all of the side walls to get a couple frames back. And then that's also why we got the H2, was just how many frames can we get throughout the system, throughout the chain. So
what brightness are you running this back one at? Is it full brightness?
The back one is 48%.
Okay.
And then I don't remember how much we turned down the side ones, but we did turn them down a little bit. Yeah. When you turn them up and you throw a video or something like that, it colors the whole room. So we turned them down a little bit. Try not to wash anything out too much. You know, if they're on even a little bit brighter. 48 for the back wall is about as dark as we can get without content starting to look different. But yeah, we love it. And
Rigging wise,
it's all ground support. Yep. The back wall is ground support, and the side screens are mounted into the wall.
Okay.
Yes. So we cut a giant hole in the wall and stuck them in.
If somebody is out there watching this video and they're looking at LED walls, because everybody is,
yes,
what's your one bit of advice you would give them after all your experience?
Yes.
As far as shopping for that?
I would contact the company that we've been using recently, which is LED Nation in Florida, and just having the support with them. They've been great to us. We have a wall upstairs in North Kids. We also have a wall at our Guthrie location that they've helped us out with, and so find someone local.
So no DIY.
Try not to do DIY. I'll tell you from experience, it takes some work to get them working. They work great now, but it definitely took us a while to get them there. So try to find another option if you can.
Well, they look great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're looking at drums now. Tell us first about the cage that these are in.
Yeah, so this cage is made by Whitley Solutions, and so we got this towards the end of 2020. Previously, we had an electric kit, so we had a whole rig. It was a drum tech system with the Steven Slate Mimic Pro Brain. So it sounded great. It even felt pretty good. But especially when we went online for when COVID was happening, I even started to feel like there's some air not moving in this that kind of feels odd. And so that wasn't the main reason, but that was kind of something that started stirring up something in my brain. And so I presented the idea of going back to acoustic, and it worked out because kind of the timing was we switched while everyone was still online, so people kind of forgot how the room sounded, all of that, and so when everyone came back in, it was just the drums were back, and so it wasn't as probably abrupt as doing a weekend shift. All of a sudden you come in the next weekend and the drums are changed. So that probably worked to our advantage a little bit. So
are these house drums? Somebody own these drums?
These are. So this is the church kit. For the most part, everything stays pretty similar. Every once in a while, someone will bring in a snare, maybe change out some cymbals. Right now, we're kind of on a cymbal search, just trying to figure out what we like. And so
got the heartbeats mixed in,
yep,
different versions of heartbeats.
Yep. So right now we're kind of trying stuff out. We have a couple different cymbals that we're switching out and trying. So right now we're trying out the 10 series. So it's a 24-inch ride, 22-inch crash, and I think 15-inch hats. And so those sound good. It helps a little bit with not getting as much bleed in the mics, and also volume. One note, it's not a volume difference, it's a frequency difference. So just know that when you get them, it's kind of advertised and even talked about like they're quieter. It's not actually volume. It will be a little less aggressive to the ear, but they're just as loud as any other cymbal. So we're still trying those out. Some of our other guys have some Istanbul stuff, and so we're just trying to figure out what we like right now. But the kit is a Gretsch USA Custom, and so me and a couple of our drummers, we worked with Gretsch on putting this kit together. So it's a 22-inch kick, 13 rack, 16 and 18 floor, and so they sound great. We're still, testing out which heads we want. Right now we have Evans on them. We've been trying, at first we tried the coated G2s, and then right now we're on clears, which we like. It's a little more attack without having to boost a whole bunch on the board. So just getting that source as close as we can. The snare is the church snare, which is Black Beauty, so 6.5 by 14, and most of the guys play it. We have a guy who has a 8-inch Black Beauty that he'll play sometimes if we're doing doing different stuff, and we have a guy with a 7-inch Q snare. So but it stays pretty consistent to the Black Beauty.
Mics and gates.
Yeah.
I'm assuming those triggers are for gates.
Yes. Yeah.
No sound
So
replacing.
the only sample trigger we have is the snare. So it's the Roland Mic TS. And
Is that the black one on the left?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's cool. The reason I lean towards that one is you load the samples onto it instead of having a whole module that you have to set. We try to value space back here. It's not a super huge backstage space, so you can load 8 samples onto it. So right now we have, I think it might be an 8-inch Black Beauty from Perks Live, and we're not using that to replace. It's very much so a blend, and so all of the other Roland triggers that you see are for the gates, and that really cleaned up a lot of the front of house, any of that bleed. I would just recommend don't be too aggressive with the gating. Don't range down to 60 dB. Don't try to eliminate it. Just try and reduce it if you can. So on the toms, we have the Earthworks DM20s, which are condenser mics, and they sound great. Again, just kind of messing around with positioning for bleed and stuff like that. We found that getting them closer to the head helps with us, kind of eliminating some of that ability for air to get in and bleed to get in. So that's on the toms. The snare, so we do a snare top and a snare bottom. So the snare top is the Bear Dynamic 201, and so it's a really awesome, it's kind of like a 57 with a little more body to it, which is really great. And then the bottom snare actually clips on to the hoop right here, and that's another Bear Dynamic. It's the TG58, something really similar to that. And so that's nice, just because if they move the drum around, those mics, the snare top is actually on a claw too. So if they scoot the drum closer, it's moving with them, and so that really helps. Hi-hat and the clap stack as well is the Audio-Technica ATM 450, which is a really small condenser mic that has really, really good side and rear projection. So that's why it's on the clap stack. That's why it's on the hi-hat as well. And so that sounds really nice. We have a mic underneath the ride, which is the Warm Audio 84, which is kind of like a Neumann 84, the small pencil mic clone. And so that helps just kind of blend that ride in whenever they're on it. The overheads are the Soyuz 013s, and so when we first did the kit, we got a pair of the AEA N8s, which are ribbon mics. They sounded great. They were a little dark, and I even think with the roof and stuff, we were getting a little comb filtering happening with the figure 8 pattern. And so we switched to these earlier this year, and we really like them. It's a good kit image. And
what was the brand of those?
Soyuz.
Never heard of it. Is that like bougie, like?
I don't remember where they're out of, but they make this really, really good vocal microphone that a lot of people use. It's like a tube mic.
Okay.
And so this is just their pencil condenser. Yeah.
Did you say kick mic?
The kick mic. So we've tried a bunch of kick mics. My personal favorite is the AKG D112. It gets a lot of bleed though, a lot of cymbal bleed. So that's why we stopped using it. But for me, that's the mic that gives me all of what I want, except for the bleed. We tried the 52. The 52 is a little flubby for me. So right now, the outside mic, which is what we've been using for the majority of the time up until recently, the outside mic is the Telefunken M82, which is their dynamic microphone. And so there's a ring on that mic and I just put it right even with the head. I actually like it a little bit more when you pull the mic out of the head a little bit. I don't know if it's because the waveform's expanded by then or, you know, all the nerdy stuff, but recently, like 2 weeks ago, I put a 91 inside, and that's really awesome. And so we have the Kelly shoe mount for it, and that gives us a little bit more of that attack that we can kind of, that's more of a blend thing, not both of them at 0. So yeah, they sound really good together. And I think that's, for the most part, it. If you want to talk, just a couple other notes for the cage. We have, well, first of all, for the actual cage, right now this back half of the cage is off. So over time, we've kind of reduced the amount of isolation that it has. So this actually used to all be enclosed right here. We opened that up over time, and then we just recently tried taking the back half off, mainly for lighting. That the cage is so dark with the roof all the way, and so I love the way it looks with the light going through. I don't know if we'll keep it that way. We may put the top back on and try to figure out a way to light it really well. But then inside the cage, we have a talkback mic for the drummer, just so we can communicate clearly. His talkback mic and the band talkback mic goes to a little speaker that we have in front of house. It's an Aventone mix cube, and so that way we can communicate with each other, you know, in service, or, you know, we talk back and forth pretty frequently about stuff, and so there's a switch on this 58, and so they just pop it in and out whenever they want to talk.
Old school on-off switch.
Yeah.
That's handy.
Yeah. Right now the drummers are running our tracks. We're probably going to switch that here pretty soon. We use multi-tracks playback on the iPad. That's just been really great for us, and with all the stuff they're adding to that, and you know.
Are you connected stage, going all that route?
Not yet. We probably will do something with Chart Builder, and, you know, I want to mess with sending BPM to our delays and all of that. But right now we're just running tracks. We do some MIDI triggering through a wired connection. So we actually, right out of this USB-C hub, there's a Ethernet cable that literally runs all the way through the ceiling down to the back to a network switch in the booth. And so we connect through that to the Resolume computer, and so that's how we fire videos. Right now we're messing with firing lyrics that way as well, just for consistency. And so that's also happening upstairs in the ProPresenter computer, which is also wired into that network. So here pretty soon, I think we're gonna try shifting to where maybe the band director's viewing that and controlling that with some foot pedals and different stuff like that. But yeah, we love multi-tracks, and we've thought about doing Ableton and stuff, but even because our drummers do run it right now, it just makes a lot more sense for us to stay with playback. And they just added time code, which is really cool. So we're probably gonna start messing with that. So the only other thing for the cage, we just recently shifted our whole snaking system to audio over Ethernet. So not Dante, just straight analog audio converted to Ethernet and then back to XLR. And so we are using the Sound Tools CAT system. So inside of the cage, we have a couple different boxes. So it's 4 channels per box, and then it runs back through an Ethernet cable to a breakout that we then plug into the snake. So that's what we're running right now for all of our inputs on stage.
Sweet setup.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, tell me about your other instruments that you got going on.
Yeah, so this is our bass area right here. Couple main things. So we have a sub 25, which we use for all of our synth bass stuff. If we want something to start out a little bit softer, or we want that shake the room type stuff, we do that a lot for Christmas, Easter, worship nights, stuff like that. So that's great for that type of stuff. The two main DIs we use, so this is the church board. The way we kind of have it split to front of house is I do kind of like a bass clean and a bass dirty. It's not super dirty, but it's just a little bit bright. It's more like a bass dark, bass bright type deal. I like a little bit more detail and high end in bass than most people. And so I don't want it to just be another sub, low passed all the way down. So we have the Noble DI for kind of our clean, all around bass sound. And then the Origin Effects bass rig, which is an Ampeg emulator type deal. And that's kind of my brighter, a little bit crunchier signal. And so we have the Gig Rig Humdinger, which splits the signal. So if some of our guys bring in, we have a couple guys with the Line 6 BOD, the new one, and they run some effects and stuff like that, they just go out to this Humdinger and I still get the 2 lines for front of house. And so that's also kind of a blend. So 3 main inputs for bass, and then we have the church board that everyone can use. And most people do use it, but then it's also optional if you want to bring your stuff in, you just plug into our 2 lines. So it just keeps it consistent for us. And yeah, that's bass world right there. So the keys rig, we have, it's kind of a hybrid in a way. So we have the Nord Stage 2 EX, which we do actually use. It's not just MIDI. We have it routed in through MainStage where you can pump up the Nord and it goes through a separate pair of outs. That's also our backup if for some reason MainStage crashes or the computer goes down, which has happened before. The left-right out of the Nord is going directly into the interface, which is going directly out the left-right. So even if MainStage crashes, we still get signal through the interface. The interface is just an old PreSonus Audio Box 1818. We've just had it for a long time, and it gives us four. It actually could do 8 outs, but we do four outs, 2 left-rights. We do a keys and a pads, and so we run MainStage for the majority of our sounds. We're still trying to figure out kind of where we want to land with sounds. We started with the Abel Mendoza Worship Essentials template, and we kind of made that our own. So right now we're using the Ravenscroft 275, and then we're using the Giant for more of like a darker piano behind Pastor and stuff like that. We have a couple of the Cherry Audio synths in there, like the old Juno synth and stuff like that. And then that's controlled, MainStage is controlled by this Korg Nano Control Studio. And so kind of what we've been trying to do recently is really simplify the rig. And so that's why it's like the only buttons you need to...
Is that just like a bigger version of the Korg Nano?
Yes. Yeah. Because there's a bunch of buttons under here that we taped over.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the only stuff you need to mess with is right in front of you. And
I like that the faders are bigger than on the tiny guy.
Yeah, and we tried to label it really well, really clearly to exactly what the computer says. Just try to make it easy to understand. And so the computer that this is all running on we just got it a couple weeks ago because our old one was kind of going out. So it's just I think this actually might be the M2 chip that they just came out with. And so it's just a MacBook Pro, 13-inch MacBook Pro, 14-inch. So that's the keys rig. We can do both if we need, and try to keep it as simple as possible, where we can stay consistent with it.
Okay, talk to us about mics.
Okay, so all of our vocalists are on the Shure Axient microphones, so just the 82s, and we've tried a couple different capsules. Right now we're on the Telefunken M80 capsule, and that's on all of those mics, just so that kind of no matter what mic they're on, it's gonna be it's going to be pretty consistent. They also are wireless in-ears with the Accent as well, and so they have the P10R, or the P10, I don't remember the exact model. It sounds great though. Sometimes I put a pack on and listen to their in-ears. I'm like,
Is everybody
"Golly,
stereo in-ears?
Everyone's stereo, and it sounds really, really good.
What about Pastor? What kind of, is he Accent, wearing
He
two
is.
packs?
He's not wearing 2 packs right now. That's probably something I'm going to look at here pretty soon.
What mic is he using?
Right now he's on the DPA 6066.
Love it.
Yep. So that's a great mic for him. It's small, it sounds good. He's really great about positioning and he puts it on himself. Every week I'll just kind of tighten it up for him. I kind of know how he likes it to fit, but he's really great about it. We have him and all of the vocals, all of their stuff, and also the handhelds on the rechargeable docks. So the batteries stay in everything. They just dock them. It helps us just upkeep, not have to send stuff in all the time for people ripping out batteries and stuff like that.
Audience mics for broadcast?
Yep. So we have, right now we have about
Is that what this is?
6, yep. We have about 6 mics for the broadcast. So these top 2, I don't remember the model number, but it's an Audio-Technica. It's one of their longer throw microphones. And so I have a pair left, right of those. And then I also have a pair of the Sennheiser 416s on each side. So 2 stereo left, right pairs right now from stage, just trying to capture audience. And then I actually have a hanging mic in the middle of the room right now that you can't see, but that actually sounds really great. I was surprised. It's a Shure pointed straight down. It's a Shure Microflex. It's like $200, but it sounds really, really good, and it captures the audience really well. And so that audience group for the broadcast, I've kind of just found the levels for each section, so it actually changes per snapshot. So it's fading up and down. So worship will bring it down a little bit. Pastor comes out, does his message. Him and I have worked on a level that he really likes. And so that slowly fades up when his message cue fires, and then back into worship. So it's automated throughout the service. The only processing we really do to them, I cut some low end out of them, and I compress the lows a little bit just to keep the level consistent when it gets a little bit quieter. And then I also have a noise suppressor on it just to get rid of some of the AC and stuff like that. But that's it. And they all sound great. And it's one of those things where we're always kind of working on how can we catch more of that interaction from the people and between him and the worship.
Well, are you enjoying the tech tour so far? If so, hit that like button. Let's jump into the lighting systems at North.Church.
Hi, I am Dal Smith, and I am the lighting coordinator here at North.Church. So we are using the Grandemay 2 on PC. So we just have 2 command wings. We have one that's a little bit bigger.
Gotcha. So how many universes are you running in here? Do you know?
We normally, I think we're using about 8 of them
8
right
universes?
now. Yeah.
Okay.
About probably 3 or 4 are full universes.
Are you guys running like full queue list in order for
Yes,
service?
so what we'll do is we'll have a walk-in sequence, which would just be your walk-in look, your online hosting, which basically will have people kind of talk before the experience. And then we'll move on to our first worship. So here's our online hosting look, and then you'll move into your worship look, which usually will run about, 2 to 3 songs before the message. Basically you go through that. And
so are you're firing Resolume or something for the LED wall?
yes,
through
yeah.
The Grand MA?
So we use our MA2 board to connect to our Resolume. We're just running a M1 MacBook Pro. Has our Arena software on there, so it gives it the Resolume cues. We have kind of a layer that just has the backgrounds on there. And then we also have an overlay layer. Sometimes we'll put scripture up there for like a scripture reading, or even like some lyrics sometimes. We've done that here and there, not a ton though. So.
How much MIDI is involved in your lighting setups?
The only thing we use MIDI right now is we use the MIDI to trigger our like lyric videos. It doesn't even really connect with the MA. It mostly just goes through the computer. So it connects to this, just the MacBook Pro, and that's how we trigger all of our lyric videos and stuff like that. So
cool. All right, let's move into the fun stuff, talk about fixtures. I always like to actually start with just house and key lighting, the most boring lights, but some of the most important lights. What are y'all running?
So for our house, it's not anything too fancy. I actually don't even know the name of the fixture that they've been here for so long, but they're just they're more like fluorescent bulbs that are plugged into dimmer boxes up at the ceiling that comes down and then connects to the MA. So they're basically set up as dimmers. And then also we have some Jolt 300s back here that'll shine some color, get a little more color during our worship songs, kind of match the feel of the worship. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for key lights, lighting your front stage wash and all that.
Yeah. So basically we do things a little bit different for our message and our worship. For worship, we'll use our color source PARs up there, but then sometimes we'll throw in, we have 4 fuses up there. I think they're called Fuse 250 or 350s. I think it's 250s, but we'll use that to use kind of some more spotlighting and maybe a little more color we use in our students. So yeah, that's.
Do you know what color temperature your video?
Yeah, so we normally run at daylight, so pretty close to 56K roughly. These lights don't do a true white, so they're a little bit off, but they're pretty close to 56. So yeah.
Awesome. And tell me about, effect lighting. You got a lot of movers,
Yeah.
different things.
So basically we'll start off with here, let me go to a queue here. These are our Rogues up at the top, our Rogue RX, our Rogue 2 RX washes. We have 8 at the top, 8 at the bottom. That's kind of our more backwash. And then also they kind of double as movers, put a lot of effects in them. We had some MH1s, but they weren't really doing much for us. So now we kind of just use our Rogues as our backwash, and then use them a lot for movers and stuff like that.
You get the zoom function.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you can get some pretty cool effects on those too. So
awesome. What else you got up there?
And then, so in the corners here, we have our, they're kind of a Jolt, they're called Jolt 300s. They're kind of very similar to like a JDC type, but they're a lot more affordable than the JDCs. They actually fooled a couple of guys that have come in here and said, "Are those JDCs?" And we're like, "No, they're actually Jolts," but they're more used for like a strobe light, more of a blinder type thing. They're really handy, and I mean, if you're looking something like a JDC, they really come in handy. So, yeah. And then we have some 6 bars up at the top, color band 6 bar. That kind of gives some more overhead light, kind of some color in there, since we're shooting the white on their faces. But yeah. And then our 2 fuses up there too. Those are the same as the kind of what we use for front. They kind of get a little more in those corners. We have some R3s at the bottom. That's what we use for more of our side wash during worship only. That kind of makes more of a dynamic look, helps to kind of be a little more dramatic lighting during worship. So,
well, before we take a little tour of the broadcast suite, why not drop a comment and let me know what's something you're pulling out of this tour that maybe you might try at your church. What's been your favorite part so far? Drop it in the comments. Let's head up to the broadcast suite.
Hi, my name is Jessie Carino. I am one of the lead video directors here at North.Church, and this is our production suite. We also sometimes call it the control room. Sometimes we call it NASA because people thought it looked really fancy up here, like we're doing mission control, but really just video stuff. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what we've got going on up here. We've got our video switcher here. It's a Ross Carbonite Black. I usually am sitting right here. Most of the time these days, I will also have a technical director with me, so there'll be two of us here. I'll call the shots. My technical director will actually be pushing the buttons. That helps a lot to keep enough eyes on everything, because just having one person right here when things get really crazy can be a little bit nuts. So this is our position for the director and technical director. What we're looking at here is our multi-view. So we are looking at all of the sources that are coming into the switcher. We've got 6 cameras and 1 ProPresenter computer graphic input right now, although we have lots of room to expand that. We also have some random baptism cameras we'll throw in there, but on a normal week, it's our 6 cameras and our ProPresenter. In front of me is where we're monitoring all of our live feeds and recordings of the experiences. We have a lot of redundancy on our live feed, so 2 of these actually are just backups and also records for so we can have different bit rates and different resolution qualities of recording on a Sunday. Sometimes we want the full res, but sometimes we might need something that's a smaller res. So instead of flipping it later, we just record in a bunch of different resolutions. That's the main thing that's going on down here. Just looks really cool, lots of screens. I'll show you also on this top row, back here is where we have our graphics operator running ProPresenter 7 right now. So that's just one person generally. And here is this station we kind of have as our expansion or kind of catch-all station. We can also run ProPresenter 7 off here if we were to need more. For some reason, we were doing a big thing and we needed more outputs on graphics. We could use this for that. We also use this as another station for someone to come in and monitor our live feeds. If the director is too busy and can't dedicate time to that, we'll often have either a producer or a floor director or some other crew person back here just kind of checking to make sure the Facebook stream is going well. If there's any issues, they can address that from back here. So it's kind of a catch-all station back here.
For your in-house iMag, are you running a separate mix for in-house and stream, or is it the same video feed?
It is the same video feed. So we, especially since the pandemic, but even beforehand, we really felt like our room is small enough to where we don't need to focus on iMag. We can really kind of just have fun on the screens in the room. Everybody's still going to be able to see Pastor. So we didn't go the iMag route. We're kind of thinking more for the person who is at home, but then also just putting that up on the screens as well in case,
Gotcha. So it's broadcast first directing, not in-room first.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. That has always been the case. It has been especially the case since COVID, and when we went, like all of us, when we went fully online for a while, that's when we really solidified it. But it's pretty much always been the case.
And your cameras, you're not live shading, you told me?
Correct. We do not live shade the camera. All of the cameras are kind of set up on a LUT that we like. We got it all the way we liked it. And the operators are just worrying about their exposure. And even the exposure, we try to keep that as easy as possible for them. We try to make our lighting pretty uniform, so they're only having to make minor adjustments on the exposure. And then we're pretty good.
And then encoding, will you tell me about that, because you guys are multi-site?
Yes, so we use Resi as our encoding for everything. It used to be called Living as One. I don't know if you remember the good old days. It took me a while to start actually calling it Resi, as it is now. But because we have multi-sites, that's why we invested in the encoding hardware with Resi. We have an encoder here that takes our main output, same thing that's going to the screens. And then we have a decoder at our Guthrie location, and they are able to play Pastor Rodney's message back at their experiences pretty much real time. I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes delayed. So that same encoding that we're able to send to our Guthrie and other locations, we are also using for our online feeds. Resi is really great that way. It's very stable, and it also allows us to do all of our Facebook, YouTube, and website live streams all from one place. And it's all scheduled as well, so I don't have to remember to start and stop or any of that shenanigans. I can't screw it up because it's scheduled ahead of time, and it's great. So that's been working awesome for us.
Jesse, just walk me through some of the little tech stuff you've
Sure.
got going here on the desk.
Absolutely. So this is my big knob, which is a great name for it. It has a lot of functionality, but really what this allows me to do is I can control the volume of the mix that's being sent to me, just to my speakers. It does not affect online or anywhere else. It's just how much I hear in this room. And it also, because it has multiple inputs, it allows me to switch over to listen to the audio from the decoder on the fly if I were to need to check, like, hey, how's audio to the other locations? Is that, working correctly, or if I hear anything crazy, I can switch over and listen to that, monitor that separately if I need to.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And my mix that I'm getting up here is very similar to just a regular mix. However, I also get the band director's mic up here so that me and the graphics operator can hear when worship is getting into the flow and they're just calling, for more bridges like they always do. I can hear that through my speakers. It's great to be able to have that separate mix to be able to monitor with. These are basically backup records as well. These are keypros, so it's recording our stream to these hard disks, and that is actually our physical backup in case of absolute chaos. And if our Resi live stream goes down to any of our remote locations or other locations, we can actually pop that drive off, drive it to them so that they can watch Pastor Rodney over there at the other locations. I will knock on wood. It's been, since we've gone to the Resi situation, haven't really had to use it much, but we are very much about redundancy. We try to have 2 and 3 levels of redundancy here to make sure we are consistent. We're online every week when you expect to see us. Our locations don't have any problems. Pastor Rodney is there when he should be. So that's just another of our redundancies in case we need it. So one other cool thing that we've set up fairly recently is the Stream Deck for ProPresenter 7. It does a lot of stuff. You can program it to do a lot of things. What we found it to be most helpful for is to help our operator to control the confidence monitor or the stage display output from ProPresenter 7. We use the stage display outputs a lot around here to make sure everybody's got timers, make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be saying. So there's a lot of switching and moving and making sure timers are reset and all of that. That was really complicated. So we just ended up programming those into one Stream Deck button, which has worked really well for us. So
using Companion, I'm assuming? Or?
We started using Companion when we were on ProPresenter 6, but now that we're on ProPresenter 7 actually does it natively. So actually, it's not in ProPresenter 7, but Stream Deck itself has plugins for ProPresenter 7. At a push of a button, the operator can call up the correct confidence monitor. It'll actually restart timers and make sure the timers are correct. So like for our announcements, that's what this would be. And then we also have shortcuts for, if we need to switch it to worship mode so the worship team can see what they need to see. It's all just on these one little buttons.
All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this tech tour. If you did, let me know in the comments below. And let's just say thank you to these great guys and this team at North.Church for giving their time and just sharing and walking through all the details of their system, of the way that they do their worship and tech there. Michael said something to me that stuck out, and he said, for us, it's not just about the tech, it's about the fact that we have the greatest message of all time and it deserves the greatest presentation. So if they can do anything to make the preaching a little bit clearer, to make the worship, translate online even a little bit better, they're gonna do their best to do that. And it just reminds me of kind of what my purpose statement is here on this channel, and that's to do great things for God's glory. So remember, it's not about the tech. The tech is a tool and we can use it for great things. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this tech tour. It was a lot of fun to get to take part in and see everything they had going there at North.Church. And this is on a playlist, this video is, of other tech tours we've done. So jump into the next one and enjoy if you haven't watched those yet. Glad that you guys are along for the ride. Subscribe if you aren't yet. If you watched an hour-long video and you didn't subscribe, come on, man, let's go.